Welcome everybody to On Track. I am Carter and I'm here with
Isabela. I'm a fourth year pure math and English student.
and we're very lucky to have you on here. So first, the main thing that I wanted to ask, how pure is pure math? Because I know math, but I don't know if my math is necessarily pure. Can you speak a little bit on that?
Well, we usually talk about pure because we're talking about the theory of math. Like, we're not just calculating or integrating something, we're proving why we can do that. So that's why we're getting back to the roots, back to the axioms, kind of.
Okay, so it's not like you take regular math and distill it. You're actually trying to find the theory behind everything, and that's kind of like what makes it pure then?
Yeah, we're trying to understand how things work. So if you're always asking why, pure math is probably for you.
I do like to ask why a lot, not usually about math. Math, I'm usually asking more how, like, oh, you just did something, how did that happen? But asking the why behind math is kind of interesting. Has that always been like a thing for you? You've just been curious about math and that brought you into pure math?
Actually, I used to hate math.
Really?
Yeah, but then I had this one really good teacher in, I think, 6th grade. And that kind of changed my idea towards math.
Wow. I had something similar, but in 12th with calculus. So that's interesting that it happened for you a lot earlier. But what kind of put you off to math initially, and what kind of made you come into math now?
It's just that I usually struggle with not being great at something in the beginning. So for pure math, I actually got to embrace that, did not understand him, because that's most what you do. And then in, I think, 3rd year, I had this course with Liu, and she was great, and that basically changed. I need to do more pure math. I was going to do stats, but then I changed my mind.
So, at Waterloo, you seem to be very involved. Do you want to tell me a little bit about the clubs or the teams that you're a part of?
Yeah, for 2 years, I was actually a math news editor, and so there I met from different faculties and everything. Then I think a year ago I got involved to WIM, and now we're doing a lot of events where other girls get to find their community, because I found them in my first year. I had nobody, no friends, especially girls. And so now we have an opportunity for other people to have that again. And now I'm also in MathSoc board of directors, so we get to know all the different mechanics and politics involved into our rights as students, I guess. It's fun.
Just so that I'm and everybody else on the same page, WIM is Women in Math, right?
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about your role in Women in Math? Kind of speak on what you're doing, and maybe any cool, interesting projects that you're working on?
I and my other friend Ellie do a lot of events, all the pizza piazzas, Women of Waterloo. It's something that we think about the theme and then what kind of activities we want to have. So a lot of networking opportunities.
I personally find it super cool, because when I think of math, I think it being very heavily male dominated. So I think it's cool to have a more nuanced perspective, get a little bit more variety in there.
Yeah.
Have you seen that in your experience, or what's kind of been living the math life been for you?
Yeah, most of the time you can kind of count on your hand how many girls there are in there. But actually, last Pizza Piazza I ended up meeting a classmate of mine. So it was very fun to know, oh, I'm not alone in this course either.
Yeah.
And we just exchanged socials and everything.
How do you kind of keep your mental and motivation up?
Well, also having the time to join other events like the Pure Math Club. I'm not involved in the exact part, but I really like to join the events. I did actually a Sesame Talk yesterday. So just seeing math in a non-stressful way, something fun. Reminding that I really like this.
Wait, that was a Sesame Talk? What was it?
Yeah, it's
what is
short
that?
for short attention seminar, math seminar.
Okay.
So I had 20 minutes to talk about a topic with my friend, and people got to know things that they might have learned later, but also sometimes not even touched in our courses.
That's cool that you're able to have this kind of outlet to be able to talk about those kinds of things, and I don't know, share something cool that you found about math.
Yeah, because another thing that helped was I did twice the director reading program from WIM, and just not being graded on something and just really exploring my curiosity about a topic with some mentor that was an expert of the area. Was very fun.
Can you talk to me a little bit more about that program? I'm not very knowledgeable about a lot of the math things.
Yes, so students sometimes, usually like a group, like 2 or 3, sometimes even 4, get together with a mentor who's either a graduate student or sometimes like a professor. In my case, my first time it was a postdoc, or actually not postdoc, one someone getting into his doctorate, and the next time was a professor, and it was just very interesting because I got to see things like knots, which join like the algebra, like groups, and also topology analysis. So you think like they're not really connected, but it turns out that there is some intersection. And the next time I did it was on elliptic curves. So again, like this one has even like real applications, not just pure math, has cryptography and everything. But I focus on again like just how algebra and geometry and even analysis all come together with this object.
And I don't know if this is related at all, but in this kind of like discussion about kind of your favorite parts of math, this is going to be a really basic question, but do you have a favorite number?
Yeah, like I'm not gonna say like one constant because I know that like this is a basic one, but for me the niche one is 11 because it's not like you're not 10, you're above 10, but also just like how melodic, because again, like I'm part English, just like 11, you could even call like in Stranger Things you have L, so I just really like the sound of it.
Millie Bobby Brown is doing a lot of good work for the 11 community out there. But okay, you mentioned English, so can you explain to me a little bit more about, because it's not a double degree necessarily, or is it you are doing pure math and English?
Yes.
What's kind of been your journey with that? How do you also do English? Because in my mind, English and math are kind of separate.
Yeah.
And you're the person that's combining them.
Yeah, so like in grade 12, I really liked the way that my teacher approached it. It was more like close reading in college. Like we had like a group and talk about the book. It was not just like writing essays. And so that prepared me a lot for my first year where I did like an elective on it. And I started just doing a minor because like you have that time. I think you have to do 8 non-math courses. But it turns out that I was getting close to finishing my minor, so like I want to do more.
You need more English. You need your reading time, and if you can also get a credit for it, just take more of it. Why not?
Yes, and especially like seminar courses are so fun because like it's not just a professor that like dump information on you. You're also asked to participate and talk about like what you thought about it, and leading the discussion sometimes. So it's very fun to like just see the different interpretations the other classmates have and everything.
That's super cool. Do you have a favorite book to get people into reading, or is all of your work very academic now?
That's so hard because like some classes are actually pretty approachable, but most of the time I just read like weird books.
I love weird books. Tell me. Talk to me. Even if I don't understand it, I'll just ask questions and you'll get to yap to me about it. Just tell me about your weird books.
I guess like the latest one that I read was called Death in Her Hands, and I don't remember the author by the full name. Is something Otessa.
We'll find that later. We'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, and it's like you don't know what's real and what's not real.
You also told me a little bit before this about Irish literature, was it? Irish, something like that? What is that class? And if you want to maybe shout out your professor or like some fun stuff you've been doing in that class, talk to me about it.
So it's a seminar, so it's a 400 level course, and back in St. Jerome's, I love St. Jerome's. And shout out St.
Yeah,
Jerome's.
we can rent St. Jerome's a little bit. It seems very nice.
And it's just like a very different way of teaching, I guess, because usually like we do the close reading, but right now we're always asked like, okay, how is this text doing what it's doing? And so we first have to understand what it's doing in the first place, and then find like evidence, like really like hard evidence on how it's all connected. Like sometimes like the poem, it's not just what it's about, it's also like the metaphor is the poem has the metaphor, it's all like all connected, but also it's so different.
I'm slowly starting to see a through line developing of you just being a very questioning person. With pure math, you're like, why math? And then with reading, you're like,
How?
Is the dog real? Like I'm seeing a lot of this questioning and inquisitive side that comes with just all of your kind of hobbies in schooling, which I find very interesting. What would you say is your math hot take. It could be about anything.
I would say that since I'm an English major, it's not that different to English because it's all like, especially pure math, is all logic. You have something that you want to show the audience, so you first have to convince yourself, and then you have to convince the reader. So it's not as separate from English as you think.
We're going to be having probably a lot of first years kind of listening and taking notes, following in your footsteps kind of thing.
Hopefully not.
What would be some of your advice if you wanted to speak to some of the first years out there?
I think that is like a basic one, but like go to office hours because I didn't use that as much, but things get hard. Like it's not like high school, you can just like plug in the formulas most of the time. You have to really understand definitions, and they're like just such an valuable resource to have. Like putting in your calendar, go to office hours and prepare, look at the assignment early on so then you can have the questions. I think that's the best advice I could have.
I've heard that from a few people, and I think that is really great advice coming into it. I also want to ask, because I've heard this potentially a common misconception about math, but how much of a community is there around math? Are people kind of like isolated, or is it more of like a whole community coming together?
In some smaller programs like pure math ends up being all the same people, so we kind of get to know them in a way, and we're actually encouraged to work together because the problems are hard, and so we're not suffering alone, we're suffering together. And
all of you are thinking, why together?
yes, exactly. And so finding people through WIM and then through my classes, especially Pure Math Club, I found so many smart people over there that I can just like ask questions and they'll be like the professors, very happy to discussing through detail about it. So it's just like another yet resource to have.
Super cool, yeah. I think that I'm learning slowly more and more that math is a lot easier if you actually just ask people like to help you. Because maybe you know half of it, they know half of it, and you can fit together like a puzzle piece, and then you know all of it.
This is exactly it. And actually I remember like before I dropped advanced sections, my first professor talked about how list all of these papers, and all of them have at least 2 authors. So like math is something that is supposed to be commutative. Like you can maybe solve it alone if you're like a genius, but if you're like a number of people like me, it's really helpful to talk with other people and sometimes just like seeing another way to prove something, because that's the other thing with proofs. There's not just a single right answer. You can have a lot of creativity, a lot of freedom to get to the same point.
A lot of unique perspectives to combat kind of even the same question, just approaching it from different angles.
Yeah.
That's super interesting. Thank you everybody for watching this episode of On Track. Thank you so much again for joining me. Do you have anything that you want to shout out? Any final notes to say?
I'd just like to thank you for letting me join WIM, because we're doing such amazing work right now, and like if you miss the events, we do this every term, and it's such a great opportunity to meet other women plus people and find a community in an otherwise hard program.